Hello, everyone, and welcome back to A Song of Ice and Fire, Book 1, A Game of Thrones. Where last time...
Oh, it has been a while.
Really hasn't, though.
Feels like it's been forever. Last time...
Eddard did something.
Eddard found out that Catelyn was in King's Landing. Him and her and Varys and Littlefinger talked shit about the Lannisters.
Mm-hmm.
And about how they know that they are the ones that pushed Bran out the window.
Do they?
Catelyn's pretty convinced.
She is.
She knows.
It's pretty obvious.
She thinks she knows. She's like, Tyrion did it. And Ned is all like, oh, jeez, that's not good.
The things you learn in a brothel.
Mm-hmm. Tyrion. Are you certain that you must leave us so soon? The Lord Commander asked him. Past certain, Lord Mormont, Tyrion replied. My brother Jaime will be wondering what has become of me. He may decide that you have convinced me to take the black. Would that I could. Mormont picked up a crab claw and cracked it in his fist. Old as he was, the Lord Commander still had the strength of a bear. You're a cunning man, Tyrion. We've need of men of your sort on the wall. Tyrion grinned. Then I shall scour the 7 kingdoms for dwarves and ship them all to you, Lord Mormont. As they laughed, he sucked the meat from a crab leg and searched for another. The crabs had arrived from Eastwatch only this morning, packed in a barrel of snow, and they were succulent. Sir Alistair Thorne was the only man at the table who did not so much as crack a smile. Lannister mocks us. Only you, Sir Alistair, Tyrion said. This time the laughter around the table had a nervous, uncertain quality about it. Thorne's black eyes fixed on Tyrion with loathing. You've a bold tongue for someone who is less than half a man. Perhaps you and I should visit the yard together. Why? Asked Tyrion. The crabs are here. The remark brought more guffaws from the others. Sir Alistair stood up, his mouth in a tight line. Come and make your japes with steel in your hand. Tyrion looked pointedly at his right hand. Why, I have steel in my hand, Sir Alistair, though it appears to be a crab fork. Shall we duel? He hopped up on his chair and began poking at Thorne's chest with the tiny fork. Roars of laughter filled the tower room. Bits of crab flew from the Lord Commander's mouth as he began to gasp and choke. Even his raven joined in, cawing loudly from the window. Duel! 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 Sir Alistair Thorne walked from the room so stiffly it looked as though he had a dagger up his butt. Mormont was still gasping for breath. Tyrion pounded him on the back. To the victor goes the spoils, he called out. I claim Thorne's share of the crabs. Finally, the Lord Commander recovered himself. You are a wicked man to provoke our Sir Alistair so, he scolded. Tyrion seated himself and took a sip of wine. If a man paints a target on his chest, he should expect that sooner or later someone will loose an arrow at him. I have seen dead men with more humour than Sir Alistair. Not so, objected the Lord Steward, Bowen Marsh, a man as round and red as a pomegranate. You ought to hear the droll names he gives the lads he trains. Tyrion had heard a few of those droll names. I'll wager the lads have a few names for him as well, he said. Chip the ice off your eyes, my good lords. Sir Alistair Thorne should be mucking out your stables, not drilling your young warriors. The watch has no shortage of stable boys, Lord Mormont grumbled. That seems to be all they send us these days. Stable boys and sneak thieves and rapers. Sir Alistair is an anointed knight, one of the few to take the black since I've been Lord Commander. He fought bravely at King's Landing. On the wrong side, Sir Jeremy Riker commented dryly. I ought to know. I was there on the battlements beside him. Tywin Lannister gave us a splendid choice. Take the black, or see our heads on spikes before evenfall. No offence intended, Tyrion. None taken, Sir Jeremy. My father is very fond of spiked heads, especially those of people who have annoyed him in some fashion. And a face as noble as yours, well, no doubt he saw you decorating the city wall above the King's Gate. I think you ought to have looked very striking up there. Thank you, Sir Jeremy replied with a sardonic smile. The Lord Commander cleared his throat. "Sometimes I fear Sir Alistair saw you true, Tyrion. You do mock us and our noble purpose here." Tyrion shrugged. "We all need to be mocked from time to time, Lord Mormont, lest we start to take ourselves too seriously. More wine, please." He held up his cup. As Riker filled it for him, Bowen Marsh said, "You have a great thirst for a small man." "Oh, I think that Lord Tyrion is quite a large man," Maester Aemon said from the far end of the table. He spoke softly, yet the high officers of the Night's Watch all fell quiet, the better to hear what the ancient had to say. "I think he is a giant come among us, here at the end of the world." Tyrion answered gently, "I've been called many things, my lord, but giant is seldom one of them." "Nonetheless," Maester Aemon said as his clouded milky eyes moved to Tyrion's face, "I think it is true." For once Tyrion found himself at a loss for words. He could only bow his head politely and say, "You are too kind, Maester Aemon." The blind man smiled. He was a tiny thing, wrinkled and hairless, shrunken beneath the weight of 100 years, so his maester's collar with its links of many metals hung loose round his throat. "I have been called many things, my lord," he said, "but kind is seldom one of them." This time Tyrion himself led the laughter. Much later, after the serious business of eating was concluded and the others had left, Mormont offered Tyrion a chair beside the fire and a cup of mulled spirits so strong that they brought tears to his eyes. "The King's Road can be perilous this far north," the Lord Commander said as they drank. "I have Jick and Morrick," Tyrion said, "and Yoren is riding south again." "Yoren is only one man. The watch shall escort you as far as Winterfell," Mormont announced in a tone that brooked no argument. 3 men should be sufficient." "If you insist, my lord," Tyrion said. "You might send young Snow. He would be glad for a chance to see his brothers." Mormont frowned through his thick grey beard. "Snow? Oh, the Stark bastard! I think not. The young ones need to forget the lives they left behind, the brother and mothers and all that. A visit home would only stir up feelings best left alone. I know these things. My own bloodkin. My sister Mage rules Bear Island now since my son's dishonour. I have nieces I have never seen." He took a swallow. "Besides, Jon Snow is only a boy. You shall have 3 strong swords to keep you safe." "I am touched by your concern, Lord Mormont." The strong drink was making Tyrion light-headed, but not so drunk that he did not realize the old bear wanted something from him. "I hope I can repay your kindness." "You can," Mormont said bluntly. "Your sister sits beside the king. Your brother is a great knight, and your father the most powerful lord in the 7 kingdoms. Speak to them for us. Tell them our need here. You have seen for yourself, my lord. The Night's Watch is dying. Our strength is less than 1,000 now. 600 here, 200 in the Shadow Tower, even fewer at Eastwatch, and a scant third of those fighting men. The wall is 100 leagues long. Think on that. Should an attack come, I have 3 men to defend each mile of the wall." 3 1/3, Tyrion said with a yawn. Mormont scarcely seemed to hear him. The old man warmed his hands before the fire. "I sent Benjen Stark to search for yon Royce's son, lost on his first ranging. The Royce boy was as green as summer grass, yet he insisted on the honour of his own command, saying it was his due as a knight. I did not wish to offend his lord father, so I yielded. I sent him out with 2 men I deemed as good as any in the watch. More fool I." "Fool!" the raven agreed. Tyrion glanced up. The bird peered down at him with those beady black eyes, ruffling its wings. "Fool!" it called again. Doubtless old Mormont would take it amiss if he throttled the creature. A pity. The Lord Commander took no notice of the irritating bird. "Garrett was near as old as I am and longer on the wall," he went on. "Yet it would seem he forswore himself and fled. I should have never believed it, not of him. But Lord Eddard Stark sent me his head from Winterfell. Of Royce there's been no word. 1 deserter and 2 men lost, and now Ben Stark too has gone missing." He sighed deeply. "Who am I to send searching after him? In 2 years I will be 70, too old and too weary for the burden I bear. Yet if I set it down, who will pick it up? Alistair Thorne? Bowen Marsh? I would have to be as blind as Maester Aemon not to see what they are. The Night's Watch has become an army of sullen boys and tired old men. Apart from the men at my table tonight, I have perhaps 20 or so who can read, and even fewer who can think or plan or lead. Once the watch spent its summers building, and each Lord Commander raised the wall higher than he found it. Now it is all I can do to stay alive." He was in deadly earnest, Tyrion realized. He felt faintly embarrassed for the old man. Lord Mormont had spent a good part of his life on the wall, and he needed to believe if those years were to have any meaning. "I promise the king will hear of your need," Tyrion said gravely. "And I will speak to my father and my brother Jaime as well." And he would. Tyrion Lannister was as good as his word. He left the rest unsaid, that King Robert would ignore him, Lord Tywin would ask if he'd taken leave of his senses, and Jaime would only laugh. "You are a young man, Tyrion," Mormont said. "How many winters have you seen?" He shrugged. 8, 9, I misremember. "And all of them short?" "As you say, my lord." He'd been born in the dead of winter, a terrible cruel one that the maesters had said had lasted nearly 3 years, but Tyrion's earliest memories were of spring. "When I was a boy, it was said that a long summer always meant a long winter to come. This summer has lasted 9 years, Tyrion, and a 10th will soon be upon us. Think on that." "When I was a boy," Tyrion replied, "my wet nurse told me that one day, if men were good, the gods would give the world a summer without ending. Perhaps we've been better than we thought, and the great summer is finally at hand." He grinned. The Lord Commander did not seem amused. "You are not fool enough to believe that, my lord. Already the days grow shorter. There can be no mistake. Aemon had had letters from the Citadel, findings in accord with his own work. The end of summer stares us in the face." Mormont reached out and clutched Tyrion tightly by the hand. "You must make them understand. I tell you, my lord, the darkness is coming. There are wild things in the woods, direwolves and mammoths, and snow bears the size of aurochs, and I have seen darker shapes in my dreams." "In your dreams?" Tyrion echoed, thinking how badly he needed another strong drink. Mormont was deaf to the edge of his voice. "The fisher folk near Eastwatch have glimpsed white walkers on the shore." This time Tyrion could not hold his tongue. "The fisher folk of Lannisport almost often glimpsed mermaids." "Danis Mallister writes that the mountain people are moving south, slipping past the Shadow Tower in numbers greater than before. They are running, my lord. But running from what?" Lord Mormont moved to the window and stared out into the night. "These are old bones, Lannister, but they have never felt a chill like this. Tell the king what I say. I pray you. Winter is coming, and when the long night falls, only the Night's Watch will stand between the realm and the darkness that sweeps from the north. The gods help us if we are not ready." "The gods help me if I am to get some sleep tonight. Yoren is determined to ride at first light." Tyrion got to his feet, sleepy from wine and tired of doom. "I thank you for all the courtesies you've done me, Lord Mormont." "Tell them, Tyrion. Tell them and make them believe. That is all the thanks I need." He whistled, and his raven flew to him and perched on his shoulder. Mormont smiled and gave the bird some corn from his pocket, and that was how Tyrion left him. It was bitter cold outside. Bundled thickly in his furs, Tyrion Lannister pulled on his gloves and nodded to the poor frozen wretches standing sentry outside the commander's keep. He set off across the yard for his own chambers in the King's Tower, walking as briskly as his legs could manage. Patches of snow crunched underneath his feet as his boots broke the night's crust, and his breath steamed before him like a banner. He shoved his hands into his armpits and walked faster, praying that Morrick remembered to warm his bed with hot bricks from the fire. Behind the King's Tower the wall glimmered in the light of the moon, immense and mysterious. Tyrion stopped for a moment to look up at it. His legs ached of cold and haste. Suddenly a strange madness took hold of him, a yearning to look once more off the edge of the world. It would be his last chance, he thought. Tomorrow he would ride south, and he could not imagine that he would ever want to return to this frozen desolation. The king's tower was before him with its promise of warmth and a soft bed, yet Tyrion found himself walking past it toward the vast pale palisade of the wall. A wooden stair ascended the south face, anchored on a huge rough-hewn beam sunk deep into the ice and frozen in place. Back and forth it switched, clawing its way upward, as crooked as a bolt of lightning. The Black Brothers assured him that it was much stronger than it looked, but Tyrion's legs were cramping so badly for him to even contemplate the ascent. He went inside of the iron cage beside the wall, clambered inside, and yanked hard on the bell rope. 3 quick pulls. He had to wait what seemed an eternity, standing there inside the bars with the wall to his back, long enough for Tyrion to begin to wonder why he was doing this. He had just about decided to forget his sudden whim and go to bed when the cage gave a jerk and began to ascend. He moved upwards slowly, by fits and starts at first, then more smoothly. The ground fell away beneath him, the cage swung, and Tyrion wrapped his hands round the bars. He could feel the cold of the metal even through his gloves. Morik had a fire burning in his room, he noted with approval, but the Lord Commander's tower was dark. The old bear had more sense than he did, it seemed. Then he was above the towers, still inching his way upward. Castle Black lay below him, etched in moonlight. You could see how stark and empty it was from up here. Windowless keeps, crumbling walls, courtyards choked with broken stone. Further off he could see the lights of Molestown, the little village half a league south along the King's Road, and here and there the bright glitter of moonlight on water, where icy streams descended from the mountain heights to cut across the plains. The rest of the world was a black emptiness of wind-swept hills and rocky fields spotted with snow. Finally a thick voice behind him said, "7 hells, it's the dwarf!" And the cage jerked to a sudden stop and hung there, swinging back and forth, the ropes creaking. "Bring him in, damn it!" There was a grunt and a loud groaning of wood as the cage slid sideways, and then the wall was beneath him. Tyrion waited until the swinging had stopped before he pushed open the cage door and hopped down onto the ice. A heavy figure in black was leaning on the winch, while a second held the cage with a gloved hand. Their faces were muffled in woolen scarves, so only their eyes showed, and they were plump with layers of wool and leather, black on black. "And what will you be wanting this time of night?" said the one with the winch. "A last look." The men exchanged sour glances. "Look all you want," the other one said. "Just have a care you don't fall off, little man. The old bear will have our hides." A small wooden shack stood under the great crane, and Tyrion saw the dull glow of a brazier, and felt a brief gust of warmth when the winchman opened the door and went back inside. And then he was gone. It was bitingly cold up here, and the wind pulled at his clothes like an insistent lover. The top of the wall was wider than the King's Road ever was, so Tyrion had no fear of falling, although the footing was slicker than he would have liked. The brothers spread crushed stone across the walkways, but the weight of countless footsteps would melt the wall beneath, so the ice would just seem to grow around the gravel, swallowing it until the path was bare again, and it was time to crush more stone. Still, it was nothing that Tyrion could not manage. He looked off to the east and west at the wall stretching before him, a vast white road with no beginning and no end, and a dark abyss on either side. West, he decided, for no special reason, and he began to walk that way, following the pathway nearest the north edge, where the gravel looked freshest. His bare cheeks were ruddy with the cold, and his legs complained more loudly with every step, but Tyrion ignored them. The wind swirled round him, gravel crunched beneath his boots, while ahead the white ribbon followed the lines of the hills, rising higher and higher until it was almost lost beyond the western horizon. He passed a massive catapult as tall as a city wall, its base sunk deep into the wall. The throwing arm had been off for repairs and then forgotten. It lay there like a broken toy, half embedded in the ice. On the far side of the catapult, a muffled voice called out a challenge. "Who goes there? Halt!" Tyrion stopped. "If I halt for too long, I shall freeze in this place, John," he said, as a shaggy pale shape slid toward him silently and sniffed at his furs. "Hello, ghost." Jon Snow moved closer. He looked bigger and heavier in his layers of fur and leather, the hood of his cloak pulled down over his face. "Lannister," he said, yanking loose the scarf to uncover his mouth. "This is the last place I would have expected to see you." He carried a heavy spear, tipped in iron, taller than he was, and a sword hung at his side in a leather sheath. Across his chest was a gleaming black war-horn, banded with silver. "This is the last place I would have expected to be seen." Tyrion admitted. "I was captured by a whim. If I touch Ghost, will he chew my hand off?" "Not with me here," Jon promised. Tyrion scratched the white wolf behind the ears. The red eyes watched him impassively. The beast came up as high as his chest now. Another year, and Tyrion had the gloomy feeling he'd be looking up at him. "What are you doing up here tonight?" he asked, "besides freezing your manhood off?" "I've drawn night guard," Jon said. "Again. Sir Alistair has kindly arranged for the watch commander to take a special interest in me. He seems to think that if they keep me awake half the night, I'll fall asleep during morning drill. So far I've disappointed him." Tyrion grinned. "And has Ghost learned to juggle yet?" "No," said Jon, smiling. "But Gren held his own against Talda this morning, and Pip is no longer dropping his sword quite so often as he did." "Pip?" "Pippa is his real name. The small boy with the large ears. He saw me working with Gren and asked for help. Thorn had never shown him the proper way to grip a sword." He turned to look north. I have a mile of wall to guard. Will you walk with me?" "If you walk slowly," Tyrion said. "The watch commander tells me I must walk to keep my blood from freezing, but he never said how fast." They walked, with Ghost pacing alongside Jon like a white shadow. "I will leave on the morrow," Tyrion said. "I know." Jon sounded strangely sad. "I plan to stop at Winterfell on the way south, if there is any message that you would like me to deliver." "Tell Robb I'm going to command the night's watch and keep him safe, so I might as well take up needlework with the girls and have Mikken melt down his sword for horseshoes." "Your brother is bigger than me," Tyrion said with a laugh. "I decline to deliver any message that might get me killed." "Rickon will ask when I'm coming home. Try to explain where I've gone if you can. Tell him he can have all my things while I'm away. He'll like that." People seem to be asking a great deal of him today, Tyrion Lannister thought. "You could put all this in a letter, you know." "Rickon can't read yet. Bran—" He stopped suddenly. "I don't know what message to send to Bran. Help him, Tyrion." "What help could I give him? I'm no maester to ease his pain. I've no spells to give him back his legs." "You gave me help when I needed it," Jon Snow said. "I gave you nothing," Tyrion said. "Words." "Then give your words to Bran too." "You're asking a lame man to teach a cripple how to dance," Tyrion said. "However sincere the lesson, the result is likely to be grotesque. Still, I know what it is to love a brother, Lord Snow. I will give Bran whatever small help is in my power." "Thank you, my Lord of Lannister." He pulled off his glove and offered his bare hand. "Friend." Tyrion found himself oddly touched. "Most of my kin are bastards," he said with a wry smile. "But you're the first I've had to friend." And he pulled a glove off with his teeth and clasped Snow by the hand, flesh against flesh. The boy's grip was firm and strong. When he'd donned his glove again, Jon Snow turned abruptly and walked to the low, icy northern parapet. Beyond him the wall fell away sharply. Beyond him there was only darkness and the wild. Tyrion followed him, and side by side they stood upon the edge of the world. The night's watch permitted the forest to come no closer than half a mile to the north face of the wall. The thickets of ironwood and sentinel and oak that had once grown there had been harvested centuries ago to create a broad swath of open ground through which no enemy could hope to pass unseen. Tyrion had heard that elsewhere along the wall, between the three fortresses, the wilder wood had come creeping back over the decades, that there were places where grey-green sentinels and pale-white wirewoods had taken root in the shadow of the wall itself, but Castle Black had a prodigious appetite for firewood, and here the forest was still kept at bay by the axes of the Black Brothers. It was never far, though. From up here Tyrion could see it, the dark trees looming beyond the stretch of open ground like a second wall built parallel to the first, a wall of night. Few axes had ever swung in that black wood, where even the moonlight could not penetrate the ancient tangle of root and thorn and grasping limb. Out there the trees grew huge, and the rangers said they needed to brood and not know men. It was small wonder the Night's Watch named it the Haunted Forest. As he stood there and looked at the darkness, with no fires burning anywhere, with the wind blowing and the cold like a spear in his guts, Tyrion Lannister felt as if he could almost believe the talk of the others, the enemy in the night. His jokes of grumpkins and snarks no longer seemed quite so droll. "My uncle is out there," Jon Snow said softly, leaning on his spear as he stared out into the darkness. "The first night they sent me up here, I thought, Uncle Benjen will be riding back tonight, and I'll see him first and blow the horn. He never came, though. Not that night, and not any night." "Give him time," Tyrion said. Far off to the north, a wolf began to howl. Another voice picked up the call, then another. Ghost cocked his head and listened. "If he doesn't come back," Jon Snow promised, "Ghost and I'll go find him." He put his hand on the direwolf's head. "I believe you," Tyrion said, but what he really thought was, "And who will go and find you?" He shivered.
Well, that was a touching moment. Jon and Tyrion, friends.
Yeah, that was cute. That was nice.
Is Tyrion really going to be his friend, though? We have yet to see. Well, we kind of saw, I guess, but Tyrion may have been the one who tried to kill
Bran out the window?
No, not. Well, we know who pushed Bran.
Or tried to kill Bran? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that would make it even worse. Tyrion and Cersei.
Oh, God, no. Yeah.
Way to make something weird and disgusting even
well,
more so.
He did show some reluctance to talk to Bran.
Well, yeah.
Did he try to kill Bran?
Maybe. But, I mean, it could have just been because he knew.
True.
He knew what happened to Bran and didn't want to give anything away.
True. Guess we just don't know, do we?
We don't.
And again, more language about Ghost following like a shadow. The other wolves howl. He just cocks his head and listens. He doesn't howl too.
Silence. Quiet.
Quiet boy.
Oh yeah, Alistair Thorne. Not having a good time. First he gets embarrassed by Jon Snow. Now even Tyrion
is in
laughing him out of the... Every time he goes to eat, someone makes him just get laughed out of the room.
Yep. Walking like he's got a dagger up his butt.
Yeah, you liked that one, didn't you?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I was not... well, all the other languages, like, I wasn't ready for... He walked like he had a dagger up his butt. That just is not...
Well, I mean, that's perfect language, because you can picture it.
Yeah, you can. But Tyrion's pretty perceptive. He's like, he's bad at his job. Like, he's not a good teacher.
Well, they showed that too, because now Jon kind of took over teaching them how to fight, and they're doing better.
Yeah.
The one kid didn't even know how to hold a sword.
Right.
And apparently Alistair Thorne never taught him.
Right. And you wonder why Lord Mormont's having issues. Like, dude, just have him do something else.
Yeah.
Because he's not teaching them anything.
Send him out on arranging.
That's what I mean. Let someone else teach the kids how to fight.
Send someone you can afford to lose out, you know?
Right.
Since Benjen doesn't seem to be coming back anytime soon.
Yeah, what happened to him?
I don't know.
And here you have Lord Mormont being like, you gotta tell him that the night's coming, the long night, the winter, the others are coming. The White Walkers.
I like how they kind of described the seasons. It gives you an idea that the seasons in Westeros are not the same seasons that we have
here
on Earth.
Yeah.
Because Tyrion's only been through, what do you say, 8 winters?
Yeah.
And he's almost 30, right?
Yeah. He's like...
I can't remember how old he said he was. Mid-20s, 30s, whatever.
Either way, he's an adult.
Yes.
And he's only seen 8 winters.
Yeah.
Seasons last for years in Westeros. Yep.
Which would be nice, in the summertime at least.
Not
Imagine like 4 years of summer. Be nice.
Imagine 4 years of winter.
No.
It's pros and cons to everything.
Yeah. This is why you gotta have 2 homes in Westeros.
One in Dorne, one in Winterfell.
Yeah.
So you can just go back and forth on the King's Road.
Dorne during wintertime is probably a lush paradise.
Yeah.
Like King's Landing.
Yeah. Then you go to Winterfell in the summertime. It's probably very temperate.
Well, no, because now it's summer. Well, I guess it's fall, because winter's coming.
Winter's coming. It's been 9, what did they say?
More or
9,
less.
10 years of winter?
Since winter.
Yeah, 9, 10 years of spring. It'll be 10 years of spring. And Tyrion's like, yeah, no one's gonna listen to me. No one cares about the Night's Watch.
And even less so about some dwarf telling them about the Night's Watch.
I love that
Night's Watch.
Martin does a very good job of like really illustrating through the descriptions of the area that like it's really fallen apart and it's decrepit and it's just
And the trees creeping up on the wall.
the trees creeping up on the wall.
The werewoods.
The werewoods are growing back. Like stuff is happening
Yeah.
and Mormont
Things
is
are
like
creeping closer to the wall. Things are falling apart.
And I love that he describes the forest as like the wall that's parallel to the wall, the dark wall, the black wall.
Light, dark.
Yeah.
Ghost on this side. Does Ghost have a White Walker
Brother
that's just like pure black?
Could be cool.
Like, what is it?
Black wolf with blue eyes.
Vanta Black, is it? That absorbs like 99.9% light.
Vanta Black.
Yeah.
Yep. It gets really, 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 really hot. Really, really quickly.
Yeah, that.
Well, in the sun, anyway.
Mm.
Yeah, Vanta Black. Maybe.
So, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that would be perfect evolutionary trait for something that lives in winter all the time. Absorb all the heat, stay warm.
Yeah, definitely. Wouldn't be able to camouflage itself very well, but...
Yeah. Comes out and hunts at night. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Or just in the mountains where it blends in with the
sorry.
background. Or maybe it lives in the land of always winter. Because, I mean, if Westeros is anything like Earth, there's probably a point, at some point, far enough north where it's just night all the time during the winter.
Yeah. Or for at least a good majority of the hours every day.
Yeah.
That's true.
So there you go, that's where he lives. He lives in the North Pole.
Ghost.
Santa's little helper.
Ghost, Dark Brother.
Yes. Phantom.
Phantom. Ghost and Phantom. Yeah. I'm just trying. I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything else about this. I don't know. I mean, it was a fun chapter. I enjoyed it. Tyrion.
It gave you some idea of what the Night's Watch current condition is.
What they're dealing with. Knowing that.
Introduced you a little bit to Maester Aemon.
Yeah, Maester Aemon. We got to meet him, and I love that he said that he thinks Tyrion is a giant.
Oh, yeah.
That was a very touching moment. That was nice. You could tell Tyrion was like, he didn't actually have anything to say to that.
Yeah.
He was touched.
Wait, you're saying something nice to me? I don't know.
Yeah.
I only have witty banter for insults.
Yep. It's interesting because you see how much in disrepair it is. You see how much Mormont is asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
And you know in the prologue that, like, these White Walker things...
are coming.
They are coming. Mormont's not crazy. He knows.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there. And it's just like... no one's gonna... It's just like global warming. No one wants to listen. Everyone just wants to deny what's happening.
Except in this case, it's global cooling.
Yes.
We need a White Walker invasion in our world.
Right?
Cool everything down.
Right?
If they don't kill all of us, you know.
Arya!
Nice. 2 good chapters in a row.
Yeah.
Alright.
So we'll get to see how Arya is dealing with everything that happened. It looked as though he had a dagger up his butt.